$3,900 here, and $11,800 for a public 4-year. $18,000 for private nonprofit, and $15,000 for a for-profit. So that actual out-of-pocket cost for a private school went from $39,000 to $18,000. So you can see, oh, okay, it's not as simple as just looking, what's the sticker price on a college education? Like, there's a lot of factors that come into play when I'm saying, what school do I want to go to? And why does it matter? So, I said a little bit ago something that's kind of radical. A college education might not be in your best interest. Why do you think that is? A college education may not be in your best interest. Has anyone ever thought about that before? Or always thought, well, yeah, I'm a smart kid, I do well at my schoolwork, so college is a natural next step for me. What do you think, Sarah?
Would there ever be a way to go around college? Like, and not have to go there?
I like when you put it that question, go around college.
Like, you can't really get a good job, and you'll just kind of be like, you don't have a home, or
Right. You'd end up
have a sad life.
under the bridge that we keep talking about, right?
Beans and rice.
Beans and rice, under the bridge, living the good life. Is there a way to go around college?
But I don't want to go.
Because I don't want to
I don't
go. So, that is a really great question. And that's exactly what I'm asking you. Like, do you have to? And still be able to achieve the things that are important to you? Because even if you don't want to go, if you said, oh, but it is necessary, you would go. And you raised your hand, Sarah, and said, yes, I plan on going. But if someone said, well, actually, there's a way, you don't necessarily have to go, like, would you be interested? Some of you are like, yeah. Others would be like, no, I'm really looking forward to college. And it's all good. But the question, I think, isn't even starting with, can you go around college? I love how you put that. It goes back to what you guys wrote down in your goals. Like, it really depends. What do you want out of your life? What do you guys want to do and spend time and money on? And I imagine a lot of what you all wrote down in your goals, I don't know what that is, does involve the best path to do it is an education at a 4-year university. I have a feeling that's probably the odds that most of you, that will be really beneficial to do whatever you wrote down. However, I know there's also other goals on there that have nothing to do with getting a 4-year college education, or even a 2-year. And some of even the things you guys spat out at me. College is a norm now in the United States of America. Like, it's pretty much expected of any above average student, which all of you would be classified as. I come in and say, yes, it's likely that all of you will go to college and get that education. It's not a necessity. Well, how could I say that? And how many of your parents might say, whoa, don't, he's been good up till now, but stop listening to him. No, I think you should absolutely not treat college like, I just have to do it. Because then that's totally disconnected to the reason we talked about earlier, like, why? Why do you want to do it? So somebody who wants to be a doctor of any sort, or a nurse, is college education important?
Yes.
Not only important, but it is the law that you have to have a certified education to practice medicine. So absolutely. Some of you, around here, a lot of people are involved in agriculture. Now, do you have to have a college education to be a farmer?
No.
Absolutely not. In fact, very few farmers have had educations historically. Does that keep them from being a successful farmer? May there still be reasons that a farmer might want to get a college education? Absolutely. In fact, like, if he found the right education, it could help his farm be much more profitable, much more efficient, much more easy to work on, generally. But what sense would it make if a farmer just goes like, I want to be a farmer, however, Dad says I need to go to college, so I'm going to go over here and get a accounting degree because I like numbers. But then he knows he's going to end back up on the farm, he or she, and say, okay, accounting might come in handy when you're working your farm books and going through your numbers and your farm budget, but you spent 4 years to learn how to do like 4% of a farm job. Like accounting does not make up the primary operation of being a farmer. I think a far better way would have been to spend his time either maybe going and studying some very specific type of agricultural studies, or going out to maybe other countries, you know, and learning what those farmers are doing, maybe going and doing an internship or just a job shadow at a farm technology company like Monsanto or some of these others, or a food manufacturer, to learn more, to actually do what he wants to do. But just saying, I want to be a farmer and I need a 4-year degree, that's not enough. Like, why? Why do you want it? How does a 4-year degree at a college actually help you do what you want to do? So, you guys in your notebooks, do you still have what you wrote down of 2 or 3 jobs that interest you? So take a look at your top 2 ideas. And I want you to just write a quick line or 2 of why or why not you think college is necessary, or how college might help you do or become those top 2 or 3 ideas, 1 or 2 ideas. I'll give you about 20 more seconds. Do the best you can. So did anybody come up with an answer of that they're confident in? Say it.
I'm not really confident in it because I have 2 answers.
Okay.
I either have to go to college or I don't have to go to college. So
That's pretty clear.
very clear.
it?
One of
Go
the
ahead.
reasons why is because I want to be a missionary. I have
Right.
to know local languages.
Right.
So I can either spend my time wisely and I can like learn, like pound it in my head,
Right.
different languages, or I can go to college for like some years and learn different languages there.
Right. What do you think would be the best choice if your main goal was like, I want to just
I
learn the language?
think I could probably get away with doing different languages in my school, which I've already started 1, but
Right.
I need like 2 or 3 or more.
Right, right. I think that's a great example because you could go to any local university and major in Spanish, let's say. It's like, okay, is that the best use of my time to do what I want to do? I know I want to speak Spanish, which is that one of the languages you said
Yeah.
would be valuable, right? So I know I want to speak Spanish fluently and to reach people groups, you know, who speak Spanish. Is that best to learn it at a rural school in Missouri, or maybe I should take another route that would help me learn it and get the same amount of information maybe quicker or less expensively, you know, than going to one of these universities for 4 years? I think absolutely that's a great example. Say if your only goal was to learn Spanish, then a Missouri Western wouldn't be your best option. Now, all of these decisions don't exist in this vacuum, though. Somebody might say, my goal is to learn Spanish. My goal is also to build some relationships, you know, especially where you guys, most of you haven't gone to public institutions and just been around like just a whole flurry of different types of kids. Maybe that's a goal in itself. So you're like, yes, I could learn Spanish a more efficient way, but I really think it's important for me to go experience a university. So don't get me wrong in saying like, boom, it's not the best way, so don't go to college. But you also should know very clearly, like, okay, why do you want to go? And if you can say why, like, I feel like socially, I feel like experientially, like I really want to have that experience. Or I really want to go to this type of school. Okay, let's consider that then as we're making these decisions. And You could go do that at a private institution. Maybe you could go to William Jewell College where it'll cost you about $20,000 out of pocket, or you could choose one of these, you know, less costly universities. Either way, somebody's got to pay for it, right? So just going through these, like, why do you really want to go? What's important to you, and what's the best way to get it? Anybody else write down, like, yes, I need college for this, or no, I don't think so? Or...
I would think that college would help me to know how to manage money in a business so that I could grow my business further.
Right. Manage money, learn how to be an entrepreneur if you're starting your own business. Yeah, and I think college can do that. Do you think you could learn that outside of college?
Well, my dad owns a landscape business, and so he took, I think, 2 years of college or something, and he works ridiculously hard, but it doesn't seem to get him anywhere, and I don't know quite the problem, but I'm thinking that if I went to college longer, perhaps I could, you know, maybe further grow my business.
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's a really interesting one, because I think, so my dad was similar, and he owned a farm, and he didn't complete his college education. He just went for a couple of years. I don't even know if it was that much. And he had some specific courses like, okay, now I can learn something about how I run my farm and learn that. However, when you think about college professors, most of them aren't college professors because they're super successful at running a business. So a lot of college professors who teach business classes have not, in fact, ever ran a business. And that's something to consider. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, there is value to be gained there. However, like when you think about all the different ways that you might learn exactly what you just said, college isn't the only option. There might be a better way to say, well, could I instead find a business that they are doing? Like, here is a business that I see, like, that looks like they're not working so hard to earn what they need or to carry out their mission. What if I worked for them, like as an intern? And that's where I learned a lot more of what I wanted to about how do you guys run your business to make it successful and not have to just break your back to do so. So again, that's not a recommendation, but those are the kind of thoughts and kind of the roads you go down. And a lot of that you'll never even know to ask unless you start talking to these people who are doing what you want to do. And that's why I go back to how important is it to just have conversations with these people. Like, they're doing something that interests me, I want to know why, or what they would have done differently. One of the best questions you can ask somebody who's doing something you like or are interested in is this: if you were to start all over again, what would you do differently? And I think you'll get a lot of insightful answers that we can learn from, that we don't have to learn things up the way. If you were to start all over again, what would you do differently? You can ask your parents that about their lives and careers. And I think you'd find it really insightful what you see for actually, like, your dad. And that might be his answers, like, I wish I would have gotten a few more classes to help me organize my business better. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's something completely different. Have you ever asked your dad that?
Actually, no, I have not.
Okay, so that's a great, like, I really hope you get a chance for all of you to talk to someone you don't know personally yet, who's doing something you're interested in. But at the very least, I want you to ask that question to your parents. If you were to do your career differently or pursue it differently, or were to start over, what would you do differently? So I know I'd do some things differently. So let's assume now, though, like odds are, that you all are going to go to college. And you say, yes, I'm going to get an education. So many college students are ending up in debt just to get their education. And not just a little bit of debt, like, oh man, I owe the school $1,000. The average is something like $25,000 that someone graduates with. They owe basically their whole first year of salary to somebody before they can say, oh, I'm out of debt. I have a couple doctor clients who are just finished with their residencies. They're starting for the first time to actually earn what you think a doctor would earn. Because when they're a resident doctor, they're earning like $50,000 a year, which is not high for a doctor or a professional who studies as hard as they do. So I have a client, they're now earning $150,000 a year. And they're like, "Whew, feels so good." The problem is they have $350,000 in debt. And so it's almost impossible for them to pay that off in any short period of time. Is it wrong that she got in that much debt? No, because she now does have a really good income. And she's a successful family physician. However, there's a huge burden on their family of saying, like, $2,500 of our monthly income is already spoken for, paying back those loans. Really, it should be more like $4,500 a month that's already spoken for, if they were to pay it off in a 10-year time frame like the government prefers. But you can pay less if you apply for less, and it gets complex. But the point of all that is to lead to, if you're going to college, you guys will be making an investment, whether you're paying for it, your parents are paying for it, or you're getting scholarships. You're making the biggest investment you ever have in your life. Not only of your time, like I said, those 2 or 4 years, but money. Like, it is expensive. So what can you do to help keep the cost in check? One of the greatest ideas is to go to a community college and live at home for the first year or two. That keeps you from having that true college experience like many people are after. But let me tell you about my first 2 years of college. The experience was fun. It was good. However, I only took almost all general education courses, which I could have gotten for a fraction of the cost at a community college, or a fraction of the cost by doing like a dual credit amongst, like, at my high school or amongst your school, which I think that might be a recommendation here in a bit. But that's one idea. Go to a community college and live at home for the first year or two. We saw the cost. Like, that is a more efficient way to get a credit hour. If all you're worried about is getting the credit hours, that's a much more cost-efficient way to do so. A second idea on cutting college costs: buy used textbooks rather than new when possible. Now, that's not always possible, but when it is possible, absolutely. If there's some wear around the edges of a textbook, does that really matter to you? As opposed to having a crisp, clean, fresh-smelling one. I mean, maybe that is important to you, but at least know that you don't have to have it that way. Here's what got me. Choose the right meal plan. A lot of universities require their students to have a certain meal plan if they live on campus their freshman year. So I went with the meal plan that was the heaviest my freshman year of college, thinking, oh yeah, I'll just get to eat whatever I want, and think, oh, it's paid for. Like, all I have to do is swipe my card. But whose money honestly paid for those meals?
Yours.
Mine. And often, like, you get to the end of the semester, if you didn't spend your whole meal plan, you'd lose it. So I'd have like $500 left in the last 2 weeks of school because there was like so much food credit on there that a lot of times I ended up spending it in like the gift shop on junk. That I can remember buying something like it was junk, and I was wasting money on it because I thought I needed the big meal plan. Really, I should have gone with the lightest one, because you didn't get a discount on the food by buying a meal plan. Should have got the lightest one, and then I could have used it up, and then if I still didn't have money left, I could go grocery shopping. But choosing the right meal plan, that cost me quite a bit of money. Look for scholarships and grants. Like I said, those are things you don't have to pay back. That could be a whole lesson in itself, looking for scholarships and grants. There's a lot out there, but...
What is a grant?
So a grant is funds that usually come via the government, and it's money you don't have to pay back. So a scholarship, and it's awarded usually based on financial need. So the main difference between that and a scholarship, because a scholarship is also money you don't have to pay back, a scholarship's usually given on merit, meaning you earned it somehow, either via athletic scholarship or other activity scholarship, or you won an essay contest and got a scholarship, or you applied and went to an interview and won a scholarship. A grant, though, is usually based just on financial needs. The grants can also be, grants and scholarships both, could be awarded based on ethnicity or family background or family need, like, you know, a lot of soldiers' children have special grants and scholarships that are available to them. So, that's a great question, thank you. Pick up a part-time job in school. I did have a part-time job. I could have picked up another one. I didn't use my time the best. I played way too many video games in college, and I regret it. Because that, like I said, that time was valuable. It's one of the most valuable times of my existence to that point. and I chose to spend it on a video game, which was fun, but did I need, would 1 hour have been fun? Yeah, and a release and a break. But, you know, days when I'd spend 4 hours, like, was that a good use of my time? No. And it's not that I might not have reflected back and said, no, like, I had such good fun and we just laughed when I was playing with my roommates. But I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was more just saying, oh, it's in front of me, let's play a video game, as opposed to thinking, well, I could be doing this or that, or working a part-time job and helping bring, you know, keep me out of student debt. Take dual credits, what I mentioned earlier. So you'll have a chance in your later high school homeschool experience to enroll in courses and get credit where you're not worried about room and board expenses because you're living at home still. And that'll keep you from having to go off and pay room and board at a college. And you usually get cheaper tuition costs too when you're doing those dual credit courses, because whether they're online or they don't need a live professor, it can usually be a very efficient way to get college credit. So that's important all to keep in mind as you're thinking about, hey, college is a good investment for me because it's going to allow me to get the job I want or earn the income I want. And like I said, even for that doctor client of mine who's got $350,000 in debt, that doesn't mean it was a bad decision for her to go into medical school. She's earning $150,000. She can pay that off. If she got done with medical school, had $350,000 in debt and said, you know what, I think I'm just going to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, now her family's got a real issue. Because not only did you invest the money to get the education, but now you're not actually getting a return on your investment through a high income. Now, would it be a bad decision for her to be a stay-at-home mom? I don't know, because that's up to her family. But they'd have a lot less flexibility in their life if she decided that right now. She's not deciding that, but that's just what you have to consider when you're making that kind of investment and going into that kind of debt to get an education. It's going to cost money. We've got to figure out a way to pay for it. All right, so you've all graduated, got your degrees, whether you were there for 2, 4, 8, 12 years. Congratulations. Now you're getting job offers. You're applying for all these places like, oh, I'd like to work there, I'd like to work there. And you're looking at a lot of factors and where do I want to spend my time and my work. One thing you have to keep clear in mind is what will they compensate you. Compensation, and I'd like you to write this down. Compensation is defined as the total amount an employee is paid along with any benefits the employee receives. So a lot of people are like, what do I get paid? And do I have health insurance? Like, that's what they're worried about. And really, when they bring those two things together, that is somebody's compensation. But usually it entails even more than that. So I've heard lots of people say this before. They're like, oh yeah, I have a good job offer on the table, but they don't provide health benefits. I don't get health insurance paid for. The total amount an employee is paid along with any benefits the employee receives. So I'll back up a little bit. Benefits include usually health insurance, also may include a retirement plan or retirement contributions for you. It might include other types of insurance like life insurance or disability insurance, which we can talk about later. It also might provide some other health type benefits like a health savings account we could talk about later. But a lot of people lump these two together and say, what's my total compensation? And that's what I would tell you to do. What I was going to say earlier is, I've heard people say, yeah, there's a really good job offer, they pay me this, but they don't offer health insurance. And there's this job over here though, it doesn't pay me as much, but at least they offer health insurance. Like, is getting health insurance alone a good reason to or not take a job? No. Foster shook his head no. No. That alone is not a good reason. What is a good reason to or to not take a job is to say, what is my total compensation and how do two different job offers compare? This job over here is going to pay me $50,000 and no health insurance. This job over here is going to pay me $40,000 and health insurance is included, which is worth $6,000 to me. Which one has a higher compensation?
The first one.
50,000, even though you have to go buy health insurance on your own. One really good question would then be, all right, how much is my health insurance going to cost me? Because if you say, I looked for health insurance and we're going to have to pay 10 grand a year, or 5 grand a year even, well then it switches back over here to say, well, this compensation was worth 46 total. So that's why compensation is so important, and why a lot of people, they can't analyze between two jobs because they don't really know how to add up all the benefits to say, well, is this job better than this job? I don't know. That's what going to be a key for you and your families to be able to say, all right, I need to figure out what these benefits are worth to me. Where it gets a little bit more difficult is something like vacation time. If you're going to work for an employer and they say, this job pays me $50,000 and has 4 weeks of vacation. This job pays me $49,000 and has 5 weeks of vacation. Now which one's worth more? Because it's hard to put a dollar amount on it. So you would have to sit down with you and the people who are important to you and say, all right, which one's worth it? Like, is it worth $1,000 to us to have an extra week of vacation? Or would we rather have the extra 1,000 and 4 is good enough? I don't know, I can't answer that for you. But you would have to be able to analyze those two things. Like, what are these benefits worth to me? Other benefits are much easier. We can put dollar amounts on and say, no, like, it's way worth it to go with less benefits or more benefits. But just being able to sit down and analyze it, you have to know what you're going to be compensated. Okay. Any questions? Does anybody need more Chex Mix?
That's very important.
Something we all value. I'm going to go real quickly through these 3 basic types of income. So one is the one we've been talking about mostly to this point. First is earned income. And I don't write down the 3 types. And if you want to write this down later after class, I will, but I don't want you to take the time to write all this down now. Earned income is number 1. It's any income, wages or salary, produced by working at a job as an employee. Number 2 is portfolio income. And you remember last time I said you can work harder, or you can work smarter, or you can invest smarter. Well, investing smarter is part of getting your portfolio income. Portfolio income is defined as income from investments or interest and earnings, including the sale of investments at a higher price than what you paid for them. So if I bought a stock for $100 and then sold it a few years later for $200, I have $100 of portfolio income. And we'll get more into that when we talk investing, maybe next week. And then last is passive income. This is what people really like, because it's basically income without the work is how it should be defined. Income earned from things you own, such as houses, land, or other buildings, as well as money earned from books, software, or music you have written or produced. So if you wrote a book and it was a bestseller, you only have to write that book once. And then if it's sold 1 million times, it doesn't cause any more work for you. So that's why it's like, hey, passive income. I'm not working anymore, but I'm getting more and more money for it. Who wants to be an author?
Yeah.
So there's so many books written or podcasts recorded about trying to increase passive income that say, hey, I only have a set amount of hours. I need a way that my income goes up based on me not working more hours, is what many people think. So I want to spend a little bit talking about entrepreneurism. Anybody know what an entrepreneur is? What do you got?
It's basically somebody who's smart with their money that's searching for a job that doesn't involve like working for someone, kind of.
Right. So it doesn't involve working for someone else. So that implies, who are you working for?
Yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Entrepreneur does not necessarily mean you're smart with your money. In fact, I know many entrepreneurs who are not smart. So the definition, and you can write this down, a person who organizes and runs a business. That's the main part I want you to write down. A person who organizes and runs a business. You work for yourself. You are a business owner. Anybody in here know a business owner? I know at least 2 families have Yeah. Exactly. No. Very likely. Yeah. My dad was a business owner. My wife's dad was a business owner. Your grandpa was a business owner. Now I am a business owner, even though I never dreamed I'd be one. So a person who organizes and runs a business, the last part says, and assumes the risks associated with the business. That's a pretty big deal. It is a risky deal, being an entrepreneur. It also is a taxing deal, that there's a lot of taxes involved when you run your own business. Okay, so there's one characteristic more than any other that says, if you're going to be successful, not just as an entrepreneur, but even if you're an employee and you work for someone else, that helps define success. But it's especially important if you say, I'd really like to own my own business, just because it can be such hard work. And that is grit. So write in real big letters, G-R-I-T, grit.
So 5 or 6 lines.
I'll let you decide. At least 2. And I have something for you. Okay. I want to go back just a second before I show you this. So this defines grit as courage and you don't have to write this down. Grit is courage and resolve, or strength of perseverance, or strength of character. Also, I've heard it defined as persevering even when it's painful. So it shares a lot in common with courage. But there's like literally been studies done that says, hey, IQ, a lot of people say, how smart are you? And that'll help determine how successful you'll be. But they said, actually, IQ is not a very good predictor of success. What character trait is? Grit. So I don't care really how smart you are. It doesn't help me know, man, I think Samuel's going to make it. Like, I think Abigail's really going to do well. Or I think Micah is not going to do so hard. It's not about IQ. It's about your power to persevere. And I think this is a really so there is that. That at the end it says, if you don't give up, you cannot fail. Which is not necessarily true. You can fail in some sense. In fact, you will fail at many things you try, and I tried. However, the true nature of what makes someone successful isn't the fact that, oh, you've never failed. It's the fact that in failure, they didn't say, oh, I am a failure. It's like, no, you're not a failure. You just have to get back up and keep going after it. And this video, I think, is a great representation of that, because we have something, or at least I do, I think most of you do, that makes it so we don't have to be afraid of failure, knowing that ultimately, if we fail on this earth, as long as we have a Father in heaven who loves us, who's proven that through sending his Son to go through the ultimate, what seemed like failure, but showing that even death couldn't hold him, like, why are we afraid? Why are we afraid to fail? What are we so scared of? And so why it's so encouraging to know that you guys can get after it. You can go out there and do some crazy things in the name of getting after it, being gritty, and being courageous, and resolving to get something done, and having strength of character. And ultimately, even when, oh, it didn't turn out how I thought, like that guy planned on winning that race, but instead he came in a full 2 minutes behind everyone else. However, the character that it took to say, did he really fail? At one goal, yes. At another, absolutely not. And so whatever you say, I want to get this done, including maybe starting a business, it might be one of the hardest things you could ever do. Or getting a certain type of degree. Medical school, for those of you, it's not easy. They say residency is like hell on earth for 2 years, 2-3 years. It's not easy. But does that mean it's not worth it? Absolutely not. So when you mix this with a lot of other things we've talked about so far, it's like, hold on, like buckle up, because this life's going to be crazy in a really, really good way. when you can persevere through things not going your way. You can be gritty, you can be tough. Because most people we know, they get knocked down and they go, oh, why me? Like, that's not fair. That's true. That doesn't mean it's over. Like, the story hasn't been completed yet. So keep after it. So I think that's a really important part, especially when you're thinking about, maybe I'd like to start my own business. Maybe I don't want to work for someone else. Maybe I want to work on my terms or be most fulfilling, or I can do what I want the most by being an entrepreneur. And I want to show you another video. Has anyone ever heard of the Roastery? You have?
We went on
Coffee.
a field trip together.
You've been there.
Yeah.
Did you get to meet the owner? Was he happen to be there?
I don't.
Okay. I doubt he was.
He wasn't.
Okay. Awesome. Well, then you won't be bored by this. This is Danny O'Neill, who is the founder of the Roastery. So being there, you'll feel even more connected. But this is like a national video. This isn't some local here, made by the Khan Academy.
I was born and raised in a small town in Iowa, and during my senior year in high school, I signed up to be a foreign exchange student. And so shortly after Christmas, I got a letter that said, okay, you're going to Costa Rica to live for a year. Went to high school and played basketball with my friends down there, and later in the year I went coffee picking. And I didn't drink coffee at the time, but we were up in the mountains, and it was idyllic. It felt totally natural. I've always really had a kind of a kinship with farmers. Farmers are the same all over the world, you know. I just love farmers, so I really love the coffee farmers. I was trying to think about what to do, and coffee was the only idea that I had. And it was in the basement of the Kauffman Foundation, actually, that I was first called an entrepreneur. And I still vividly remember that. I was thinking, oh, that sounds good. What's that? The attributes were all the ones that I had always gotten in trouble for. Thinking outside the box, being independent, persevering, not quitting, all these things. So I started this notion of give folks what they wanted, where they wanted, when they want, and do it better than anybody else. We can pick up the phone and talk to a green coffee broker and get coffee sent to us. And then you roast it. It's deceptively simple. I wrote out my mission statement, which is still the same. Best coffee, best roasted, fast as possible. I was scared to death. I had $17,000 and started my basement, right? But it was that fear of failure, I think, that motivated me. That's what works for me. I was so afraid to fail that I just kept going. I think there's a lot of innate entrepreneurialism that the system takes out of the kids. There's this insatiable curiosity, and I think most of us have it. It might get buried if we're introverted, but it's still this is a lot of intense, intrinsic curiosity, spontaneity, and passion. My dad used to say, you find what you're looking for. Every one of these things that I do, somehow or another comes back, and some people might call it karma, some people call it all kinds of different things, but I just know that I have that old Dale Carnegie, if you help enough other people get what they want, you're going to get what you want. When I have an idea, I tell as many people as I can. I want as much feedback as I can. It's messy. So from point A to point B, I have all this mess in the middle, but all that informs that idea, and most likely it's going to kill it before I spend a lot of time and effort. I want, good energy, be around smart people, and all that comes back, and, it fills my cup in lots of different ways.
There you go. There's some more videos about him in this interview that are probably worth your time. You can look them up. But that is Danny O'Neill just talking about entrepreneurship. And so that might come across like talking about entrepreneurship is like, ooh, you should really consider it. And I don't think everyone should be an entrepreneur. However, I think you should know that if you wanted to be one and really had some of those qualities, or even say, I'm not great at persevering, but I still think I can get better, then it's really something that I think you should think about. Could I do that? Or would I be up to the challenge? Because the thing about entrepreneurship, in my case, it's provided me a flexibility that I've never known. and it's really hard, and my business isn't even as hard as many that I know who are entrepreneurs. Like Ashley was talking about your dad, you see him work a lot of hours, right? Especially in the springtime, I imagine, and when the weather's nice. And it takes a ton of work. But there's also a reason he's chosen to do that as opposed to, you know, go work for someone else. I think it's allowed him to align some of his other values with his girls and do other things. So there's one example. But ultimately, entrepreneurism is cool because, like he said, when you find a way to give people what they want, you usually end up getting what you want. And I think that's a good philosophy to rest on. And it's a way to make a living. And it's a way that some people make really, really good livings. However, in other ways, it's really nice just to be an employee, not have to worry, like when you go home from work, what's going on. And not have to work maybe so many hours. Okay, so speaking of entrepreneurship, I'd like you guys to delve into your brains and your souls a little bit. Write down at least one business idea you could start at your age. So one business idea that you could start today if you wanted. That you have the ability to say, oh yeah, I know something I could. Yeah.
Could it be something that you've already done?
Absolutely. It just has to be an idea. And then I have a link in here that if you guys can't come up with stuff. Okay, for those of you who have something down, I'd like to hear some of the ideas we got going on right here. Any brave soul can spout it off. Go for it.
Rubber band gun business.
Rubber band gun business. That is as unique as it gets. Who else? Go for it.
Selling goats.
Selling goats. Yep.
Babysitting.
Babysitting.
Selling pretzels.
Pretzels. Good.
Giving horseback riding lessons.
Awesome.
Are you ready to do it? Yeah.
Has anybody not done something that they've said yet? Like, is selling pretzels a real business? Like, have you done that?
No.
Okay.
But I've made pretzels before and they're really good.
Yeah. It's good enough that other people would like to buy some.
Probably.
Nice.
Maybe bag stuff. Bag pretzels.
Yeah.
Any other ideas that you aren't trying maybe? No?
Trying to think.
So this website here is the U.S. News and World Report. Oh no, this one's called Money Crashers. It's called 7 Small Business Ideas for Teenagers and Kids. So it goes through 7 more ideas. It says, especially as teenagers, like it's tough to find jobs based on your schedule, right? And working for people, and especially like today where there's less and less like low-paying jobs because they get automated away so quickly. So number 1, social media consultant. There's some teenagers who, you know, they know social media inside and out. Well, they can use that and turn that in. An Etsy retailer. So if any of you have ever crafted something, Etsy is probably. Have you sold on Etsy?
Well, we were thinking about doing it because me and my dad were thinking about making like wooden boxes or crates.
Nice.
For that,
So Etsy retailing, like the internet is beautiful. Babysitter. Kids taxi service. It says parents are always stretched for time, so why not start shuttling their kids to ballet, violin, karate, or soccer practice? Parents can stay at work longer or spend more time relaxing and cooking dinner while you drive their kids to after-school activities. So when you guys are 16, that one does have some caveats, like you got to make sure your insurance is set. But computer tutor, errand runner, moving assistant, and then they give other ideas here too. Like honestly, the ideas are endless. You might have had a hard time, like, oh, what? I mean, everything you guys gave is perfect. Like you can do that, and realizing like, man, you might be able to earn more than you could otherwise at your stage and make good use of your time. It's important though in any business that you are eventually making a profit. So, babysitting, you had to get certified, right? There's a class to do so, and the class costs money, right? So if you'd have gone that class but never ended up getting a babysit job, like, your business would have lost money. But you made up that money and more, right? Faith? So she turned a profit. There wasn't a cost for business. It was probably pretty small, but eventually she had to get more income than just paying out for that cost. And any of the other businesses, some businesses have a lot more expenses. Like if anyone would run a lawn care business, or if you even think about horses, like if you consider you have the horses anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you just said bought horses just to start a business, then your expenses would be super high and you have to do a whole lot. So fortunately, that's not really a cost of the business because you already have those on your farm. And anything else? Foster costs?
It's actually pretty cheap to make one. It's, you can make them for about $2 and sell them for $12. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you just made one, could you make it for $2?
it probably not because it's more expensive.
Right. But when you buy like, hey,
In
I bought
bulk,
all the
right.
lumber, all of the,
And my dad already had the tools, so
perfect. See, that wasn't a cost of business.
but
So,
it would have been a cost if
right.
I was just starting on my
Yeah.
own. So
And a profit, when you're figuring that out, it goes back to what we talked about in budgeting. Like you got to be able to budget in a business to say, hey, am I actually going to have more income, than my expenses in my business? So you want to make sure you have a profit when income is greater than expenses. And just a little bit of an entrepreneur scripture for you from Proverbs. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. So Danny O'Neill said something in there. He's like, and I have a good idea. I talk to as many people as possible. A lot of people, when they have good ideas, they say, I'm going to keep it to myself because I don't want someone else to steal it. But the reality is, so few people can act on ideas. It really takes something special. So that's what a lot of people are just mere talk. They can't put in the hard work. They don't have the grit to make it happen. Do you want to be one of those people or not? And even this applies to even if you're not going to start your own business someday, if you're an employee as well. So we're out of time. I want to make sure. Okay. So the last point I want to make is something I used to call, and I actually heard from someone else, win the people game. I changed it to elevate people. So when in doubt about what you need to do for your next step of getting what your goals are, getting after them, or what you're going to do for a living, know this, that when you elevate people in your life as a high priority, both people who are very close to you, like family and friends, but also people who you say, oh no, they're just an acquaintance, or I don't really know them that well at all. If you seek to be a people person, not necessarily a people pleaser, but a people person, the ability to talk to people, have experiences with people, laugh with people, ask good questions of people, I guarantee you will not regret it. And I think you'll find it is, along with, we talked about grit, like being able to win the people game or elevate people to just a high priority in your life, you will not go wrong. So what does that look like? One thing that I asked you to do last week that I highly encourage you to take a second shot at this week is to talk with somebody you don't know who does something that's interesting to you. Now I said it was a job or career. You can make it even broader than that. Just who does something interesting. Maybe it's you play an instrument and you saw somebody or know somebody who is a lot better than you are. Talk to them. What was their experience? Why did they first play that instrument? How much did they practice? How long did it take to get them? Where did they perform? What would they do differently if they started over again? Ask them that. Maybe you call me later this week and ask me questions about my life. Like, okay, great. That maybe is a good place where you need to start if you just can't call somebody else. But like I said, most people who are worth talking to will talk to an adolescent if they sincerely just want to ask them questions. If you said, I have questions for a class I'd like to ask you because I'm interested in your job or I'm interested in you doing this. Yes?
I called someone. I'm like, yeah, I'm with this class doing some career investigation. Like, what's that? I'm like, what do you mean, what is that?
And you may get some of those answers. You may get people who flat out say, no, like I'm not talking to you, I'm too busy. And honestly, that might be the best experience for you. Because getting told no, at first you might be like, oh, I'm never doing that again. But in reality, like, are you hurt? Like, are you bleeding?
Yes.
On the inside, my heart. No, like,
my eyes.
just the fear of it is all you have to fear. There's actually no physical harm that can come to you from being told no. Or like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk to you.
My mom always says they can't bite you over the phone.
It's true, isn't it? Have anyone ever been bit over the phone? No. Like, but I've been told some hurtful things, but it was like, okay, I almost have learned to laugh at them. Like, really? Like, I'm a teenager, and you thought it was appropriate to tell me to get a life? Like, that's hilarious. And so if there is any of those situations, like, that they're worth laughing about. Some people have even put it this way, like when I was talking about going door to door, they're like, go see how many times you can get told no. Let that be your game. Like, see how many times. Try to get told no as quick as possible. I don't really think that's worth it, because then if you start trying to get told no, then you probably are going to change the way you act. But when it comes to talking with people, over the phone, in person, like in person's even better. Like it's a fear that is so worth attacking. Do not let it own you. You own it. And when you unlock that treasure chest, like, watch out. Like, I love talking to new people now. And it's still got its awkward parts to it. But I love, like, when I sit down on a plane, I'm always, like, feeling the people out beside me, like, am I going to really annoy them by asking them a couple questions about them? And it's been so fascinating to learn things about people who aren't like me, and even people who are like me. So, elevate people. Do that this week. Try to do some specific things. Like, all right, how can I make people a high priority, either by serving them or talking to them? And I think that's the two things you can keep in mind: serving them or talking to them. And in that, we'll get back to what we started with all this. We want to increase income. We want to get to more of our goals. That's what it's all about. It's not people for people's sake. Well, I take that back. It is, like, that's a much higher goal. But in our conversation, in our context, remember, doing this gets us to where we started, which is increasing income. Doing more of the things that are important to us in our budget, right? All right. Good job, everybody.